Hey, how are y'all today? So I wanted to talk a little bit about manipulation and some of the different forms of manipulation. I have mentioned it several times before here on my channel. I've talked about manipulation and manipulation tactics that people use. And this is something that you will literally see all over the place, anywhere from your relationships to your family members to your workplace. Even like in children. When children are young and, they try to manipulate parents and so that they can, get treats or get things or whatever, or they'll, kind of manipulate the parents against each other kind of thing, just so they can, get whatever it is that they want, or, that kind of thing. So like when I say manipulation, it literally starts like, what do you say? It starts at an early age, or it can start at an early age. I mean, especially if it's not nipped in the bud. It's not like. So I was just thinking about that. And I know I was a bratty child when I was growing up, because I was an only child until I was like 4 or 5. So my mom had my brother, so like that helped to definitely like, nip that issue I had in the bud. I'm glad my mom had another child, because when I had the attention of my grandmother, my mother, and my grandfather, and then my dad, all at one time. You know what I'm saying? And that's like that's what kind of gave me grown bratty behavior. And I'm so glad that my dad, nipped that in the bud when my mom married my dad. And he was able to identify a lot of those manipulative type of behaviors in me as a child. And plus I was the firstborn, and I had a lot of only child syndrome. So I'm really glad that a lot of that balanced out just by my mom having other children, but also by my dad, actually, enacting punishment. I needed it. Okay. But anyway, anyway, I got sidetracked here. So it could start at an early age, you know what I'm saying? But if you don't nip it in the bud, or if it's something that you just start to develop or whatnot, especially in relationships, it could be a real problem, especially when you're talking about long term, and especially when you're talking about like healthy behaviors, non-toxic behaviors in relationships and in the workplace. Now, we know in the workplace, a lot of times people will manipulate things just so they can get what? But more money, a better position, a higher position than you, more power, whatever it is. But in relationships, it really is like, there should be like no call for it. When you're talking about, if you're in a relationship with somebody for all the right reasons, like for love, to unconditionally love somebody, to have growth and expansion of your family and everything else, and just to kind of, when you have children, it's really to create love and to expand in your love, right? I mean, at its purest, that's what it is, right? So when there's manipulation in relationships, that can really, really, really like pull at you, take away from the purity of love in relationships, what they're supposed to be. We're all supposed to be examples of God's love. And at some point, you should grow to that maturity. Either you learn about God at some point and you understand this is what we're supposed to be doing here on this earth, or you don't. So it's like at some point you have to switch over and start doing things from a pure heart with good motivation, good intentions. Okay. So I'm going to give you an example of some things that I feel like are manipulating in relationships. Actually, I have written down, I've already looked it up on my phone. And you can do the same thing. You can just Google it. I always tell people, just Google if you're not quite sure. You can just type in manipulative behaviors and you'll get a whole long list, okay? But let me just read what it says. It says, manipulative behavior is when someone uses harmful and controlling tactics to gain personal advantage. Manipulative behaviors can include gaslighting, lying, blaming, and guilt tripping. Okay, and so now it gives into some examples of manipulative behavior. Gaslighting, which is a form of psychological abuse that causes confusion and self-doubt in a victim. So, for example, if let's just say you know something for sure, okay, you know the song by I forget his name, but It Wasn't Me. What's that guy name? I forget. That island boy. It wasn't me. Anyways, he's like, oh, you caught us on the kitchen table, or you caught us here, whatever, and you walked in on us, and he's still denying it wasn't me. You didn't see me. So it's like something when you know something to be true, and a person purposely gaslights you to just, lies to you and says, no, that wasn't me. I don't know who you saw. You saw my ghost, or you saw my twin, or you saw, whatever. You didn't see what you saw. You didn't hear what you heard, or you don't know what you know. And it's gaslighting. That's a form of gaslighting. That's to confuse you. And now we all know who's the author of confusion. We know it's not God. Okay? You know who that is. So, if you're being gaslighted, that is absolutely a form of manipulation. And it is a form of emotional abuse. Really, it is a form of abuse. Okay? Love bombing. Showering someone with affection, attention, and gifts at the beginning of a relationship. So love bombing is literally just showering. Like if you know a person's love language, you know what they love, and you do it only at the beginning of a relationship. Like I had a friend, I knew somebody who was like, yeah, my ex came back and, she was good to me for that weekend or whatever she was here. And he literally told me, he was like, yeah, but it won't last. Like he's been through this before. So that's a form of love bombing, when a person doesn't stay consistent with their love affection towards you. That's love bombing. It's literally manipulation, because they're doing it for a purpose. Like let's say they want to get money out of you. Let's say they just want you to, let's say you broke up and they just want you to come home, or they just want to get back with you. They'll love bomb you, and then all of that goes away after they get what they want. Okay, that's a form of love bombing. I like to joke around and say, yeah, I'm a consistent love bomber, because I am a love bug in relationships. I really can be a love bug in relationships. Like, but I'm like an everyday love bomber, if you want to say, because I now wake up with the real thought and intention of, what if today is the last day? What if today is my last day that I get to be with you, or see you, or ever experiencing you again, or whatever? And if I really love you, really love somebody, I'm constantly thinking of that. I'm constantly thinking of that as a reality. And so because of that, I've been told that I am very intense in my intentions and in my love. And I guess, it's not common for people to be able to do that consistently. But also I come from a very happy family, and a family that I saw consistent love. And so sometimes I have also been told that my everyday behavior in a relationship, my everyday who I am, how I show up, is literally more, it literally is like more than what other people have experienced in relationships, to the point where they're like, wow, why are you so nice? And I'm like, I'm floored. And whenever I hear that, I've heard that a couple times, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, this is like how we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be loving. And people, and I've been told, like, they didn't think that was how I really was. But when you are a Christian and you're supposed to be, actually showing love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, mildness, self-control, these things, when you're supposed to be showing that towards others, and it's coming from a place of you want to have approval from God, that's just something you do on a regular basis. It's not something you can just love bomb. You don't just do that one time. But when a person has bad intentions, like to manipulate, they will show that intense love, or whatever it is they know you like, okay, for a little minute, for a hot minute, and it'll go away after a week. That's love bombing, okay, and that's manipulative. And basically, someone who's going to do that is really someone who doesn't really truly love you. They don't love you from an unconditional, from a good place, from a holy place, agape love, because they're loving you for a purpose, just for one purpose, So that's manipulative. Okay. Guilt tripping is a form of emotional blackmail that preys on someone's feelings of guilt. So let's say you were with somebody from a young age, maybe in your teenage years or something like that, and y'all did some risque behavior back in the day. And, but as time gone by, y'all stayed together, you had children, whatever, you developed a relationship or something, and you got married or whatever. And, let's say you decided to, mature. Maybe you learn about God or whatever. You decide to become a Christian and you decide to change. Maybe you don't want to rob banks no more. Maybe you don't want to be a scammer anymore. Maybe you don't want to steal. Maybe you don't want to, whatever it is that, maybe you guys were selling illegal substances or, just doing the most or whatever that you did when you were younger. And, maybe that person knows a lot about you and your past and they hold that over your head. Like, you can never leave me because I'll put your butt in jail. Or if you leave me or you try to be happy with somebody else, I'm going to make sure that you pay for that because I know what I know. And you did this, that, and the third. And I'm going to make sure everybody knows. But that kind of stuff, that's guilt tripping. That's holding something over your head so you feel guilty. And that is manipulative behavior so that person is trying to manipulate that person for a particular outcome. Like, you can't leave me or... you can't, do this or that, if you go here or if you do that or if you talk to him, talk to her or whatever, I'm going to XYZ. And that puts guilt on you, a lot of guilt. That's guilt tripping. That is manipulation at its finest, for sure. Definitely, that's on the list. That's literally on the list. Playing victim. Playing the victim. It says avoiding responsibility for mistakes or wrongdoings by blaming others. So it's like you did some, let's say you're in a relationship with somebody and the other person did something to hurt your feelings or they absolutely did something wrong. Something like that is really like wrong, something they did, whether it is lying or something that they done that was just not right. And then instead of accepting responsibility for that action that they did by actually just owning up to it and saying, yeah, I'm not proud of that. I wish I didn't do it. I should never have done that. I should have never. I wish it hadn't, or I'm sorry. After I did it, I felt bad. Whatever the case, like just owning up to that behavior. Instead of doing that, they play the victim by throwing blame on you, saying, well, I did it because of you. And like, for example, let's say you're in a relationship with somebody and they cheat on you. And then one person finds out, right? And they make you, that person, I'm sorry, I wish I didn't do whatever. And they like, let's stay together or whatever. They work it out. And then, within a few months or whatever, then that person decides to go cheat on you. Now the other person goes to cheat on you, right? And that behavior is obviously wrong behavior. And now when a person says, well, why did you do that or whatever? They say, well, it's because you cheated on me first. That kind of stuff. It's like, it's that kind of like, they just want to throw blame, right? The responsibility goes both ways. But typically, and I've actually heard of that scenario happening. I know people who that's happened to. It's very, very typical. It's called revenge sex. And that is something that I vowed I would never, never, never do in my first relationship with my husband. But, it's just like, you don't revenge sex to get back at somebody because it never works out. It never works out. It doesn't even the scale like people think because it's done with wrong motivation. It's done with wrong motivation. So it's not good. But also God doesn't like that. God doesn't like that, right? So like revenge sex is not a good thing. You don't go tit for tat like that. Okay, so now the next thing that was playing the victim. Silent treatment. Oh, this is a big one. Silent treatment. Shutting down communication and connection as a form of punishment. Oh, yeah. Okay, the reason why this one is so big to me is because my love language is acts of service and quality time. Quality time is actually, at this point, like when I retook the test, I'm a few points higher in quality time than acts of service. Quality time for me is really talking and communicating, and it can even be over the phone, but I'm a big talker, but I'm also really big on face-to-face communication or just open, loving communication, and especially quality time, right? So, going out or whatever, right? Spending time together. And the opposite of that is this right here, silent treatment. The opposite. So that's the reason why silent treatment for me cuts me deep. It cuts me real deep. It feels personal to me, and it actually feels like a punishment to me. Now, that's a form of manipulation. Like purposely trying to give someone silent treatment so they run after you, so they call you more, so they talk to you more, so they want you more, or whatever. Especially when you learn about these game playing things like on YouTube. That's manipulation. That does not work long term. That does not work long term. Now, let me give you an example. If you're a guy watching this, you'll understand what I mean when I'm talking about the opposite, right? This is the opposite of my love language. So therefore, because my love language is quality time, doing the opposite cuts me real deep. So, for example, most men that I know, their love language is physical touch. Physical touch is usually the number one or the second love language. Every man I know, including my father, every man I know, it seems like physical touch is one of the main love languages, right? So, doing the opposite and withholding physical touch in a relationship. So, let's say, for example, your man loves when you hug him and hold his hand and touch him or whatever, maybe rub the back of his neck, stuff like that, right? All those things. And when he gets home, if you're upset with him about something and you decide to give him the cold shoulder and you're like, no, I'm not touching him. No, you keep your, you do this for the rest of the night or the whole evening, and that's a part of silent treatment. That's the opposite of physical touch, right? It's not touching. The opposite of physical touch is not touching. And that feels like a personal attack, doesn't it? It feels wrong. It feels wrong. There's a reason why it's wrong, though. There is a scripture in the Bible. It's in Psalms. I have to look it up. It's in Psalms. And it is about not withholding good when it is within your power to do so. So when it is within your power, meaning if you're in a relationship and the person, I'm going to use me as an example. I'm in a relationship with somebody and I've given that person the power, or he's given me the power to touch him, love him, and as a form of love, right? I have that power to make him happy by touching and loving him and all of that. And I withhold that and not touch him, not show that kind of love to him purposely, right? That is me withholding good when it's within my power. And it is within my power because he's specifically given that to me, because I am his wife or I'm his significant other or whatever. And the whole point is, for when you're in a relationship and you're monogamous, is you are looking only to each other for those needs, right? For those needs to be fulfilled, for those specific needs to be fulfilled, right? So to withhold specifically, like silent treatment, like for me, silent treatment, not calling, not talking, not communicating, not going out or whatever, like purposely just not doing that, is a form of punishment for me. It cuts very deep. I take it very, very, very personal. In the same way a man would if a woman decides to not hold his hand or not hug him or anything like that. It's the same exact thing. Now, that is not to say when you are in a relationship with somebody and let's say you are shutting down the relationship, like you are no longer wanting to be in a relationship, or you've decided to no longer further pursue a relationship with somebody and you decide to not talk to them, and you decide to, withhold speaking from them because you are shutting down or you are ending a relationship. That's different. That is different. When a person starts pulling back their energy for the purpose of ending a relationship, or because, people pull back their energy for different reasons that are valid, that usually have to do with maybe they were manipulated or they don't feel safe in the relationship. They don't feel safe. Something doesn't feel right. Their spidey senses are going off, or they're ending the relationship and they don't want to talk to that person. Like there will be no extra words going back and forth, right? That is different. That's not what I'm talking about. That is not silent treatment for manipulation. That is silent treatment simply to end the relationship. That's different. I'm talking about while you're actively, supposedly in a relationship, okay? Now, emotional blackmail, that's on the list. It says using appeals to someone's feelings to convince them to do what the manipulator wants. So that's emotional blackmail. Okay, isolation, trying to isolate someone from friends and family to make them more dependent on them. That's a big one. You will see a lot of, well, I don't want to say men, but I've had friends who have had male counterparts, husbands, whatever, that purposely put them in a situation to where they need them. Like they want them to be broke, basically, you know, so that they have to be forced to ask their husband for the keys to the car or money, food, whatever, you know. And that is definitely like, it is one thing for a man to have the desire to feel needed and want to be able to provide. That is one thing, and nobody should take that away from the man. But when you use that, or when you do that and you purposely manipulate someone and you isolate them and you try to manipulate different things, you know, maybe you try to get them fired at their job so that they need you more. Maybe you know, purposely, you know, break down their car or something so that you have to get a car and it's in their name. So now they're in control. That's different. That is wrong. That's wrong. Like, that is wrong. That's something I won't fall for that. I will not fall for that. I have not fallen for that. I don't like it. And I have sensed some of that in some of my exes. My mama taught me better. My mama taught me way better. Okay. No. I do not fall for that kind of thing. No. Okay. Triangulation. Using a third party to create division and tension between two people. This is another one. I once knew someone who definitely tried to use the communication that me and him had as a way to be manipulative with his ex, you know, and because, you know, without sounding conceited or whatever, but it's like he knew that I was attractive and whatever, and she would be jealous of that. And trying to make himself look like he's wanted by two different people. Oh no. Oh, that's a hell no is what that is. No. You gotta shut that down. That is not acceptable. That's manipulation. And a lot of people don't even realize that that's manipulation. They may not even be doing it, understanding and knowing that they're being manipulative, but that is manipulative. That is manipulation. And I see boys, I see young, immature boys, I see men, I see guys do this all the time. They will try to pit two women against each other to fight. No. Well, I don't do no girl fights. I don't do that. I don't fight. I don't compete. And that is something I will never stoop to doing. It's a no. It's either we're in a relationship or we're not. You either are going to get rid of that other person, but if I find out about it. So sometimes, you know, men will do this and you don't even know that that's what they're doing, right? You might not know. But when you find out, or you do know, you got to step all the way back, okay? You definitely, like, let that person go. Because, you know, for me personally, I will not be used as a manipulation tool for any man, ever. Absolutely. So, ladies, be on the lookout for that. If a man is using a woman on purpose, throwing it in your face, or whatever, that's manipulation. That's wrong. That's wrong. Anything outside of just pure, loving, unconditional, agape love, anything outside of you being upfront and honest about your emotions and your feelings, upfront, open, honest feelings, vulnerability. If you have a problem with being vulnerable and speaking your truth, and instead you try to go to these, you know, type of manipulation tactics and controlling tactics, that's wrong. It will not work long term. And God don't bless no mess. He doesn't bless that. Okay? You will not be blessed. And that doesn't work long term. It only works for a minute. And if you have a problem with being vulnerable, male or female, it's likely that you need some counseling. It's likely that you need some counseling. Maybe something happened to you in your childhood. And I'm speaking from experience. I definitely had situations happen in my childhood. And to be honest with you, these days, the devil tries to get to all of us early. Okay? But we can't continue to use childhood trauma as a scapegoat to bad manipulative behaviors. You can't. You can't continue to do that. Not in a relationship. It's not right. It's just not right. So, sorry, somebody was getting loud. If that is what's going on with you, or if that is something that's going on with one of your partners or something, I suggest that you strongly encourage that they get some. They might need actually psychotherapy. Okay, I have known people. I once knew someone. I don't think he realized how bad his trauma was, and he actually needed psychotherapy. Like, he was I believe his trauma pushed him into manic behaviors and schizophrenia. I don't think he realizes it was that deep. It was that that it affected him that much. I don't think anybody is being honest with him and his family and telling him, but he absolutely displayed all the traits of schizophrenia and of manipulation and all kinds of things like that stem from some of his childhood trauma that he needs psychotherapy for it. And, you know, I try to encourage him to the best of my ability, but, you know, I am not, you know, I'm not the person I can't force anybody to do anything, right? I can just give what I think. But psychotherapy, I mean, at this point, maybe even, you know, some sort of, you know, listening to some at night, some of those things that help with childhood traumas, you can put them on YouTube, you know, some of those sounds that just help. I mean, all kinds of things, actually, just in counseling, you know, because a lot of times people just don't realize how bad that their trauma has affected them, you know, that they're doing these types of manipulative behaviors that are just not right. It's just not right. Okay. And it's not going to work for anybody long term. If you have a problem being vulnerable and just sharing and saying, you know, I love you so much. I don't want you to leave me. I don't want you to go. Or, you know, I love you for this. I think you're beautiful because of this. I like what you do. I think you are, you know, an amazing woman because of XYZ. And if saying that to somebody makes you feel like you're losing power or like you're not as good, you have a problem, right? Because, like, for me, I can give anyone their flowers. If I see something good or something wonderful or amazing or something what they're good at, I have no problem saying, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. You did really good. I love this about you, whatnot, and giving somebody their accolades and their flowers, you know, because that gives people strength on the inside. And if you can't do that for somebody because you have secret hate for them or secret jealousy or secret envy, or if you are, you know, basically you feel like you'll be less than if you try to, you know, tell your significant other they're beautiful, you know, or like, oh, she heard me say that one time when I love bombed her, you know, and you think that that's enough. Well, you know, that's probably a sign that you have some sort of emotional trauma, and that you have some issues that need to get addressed professionally, honestly. And there's a lot of men that are like that. And I know that nobody is perfect. Nobody is perfect. Okay. But let me just remind you what the scriptures say. And I know you may or may not be a Bible reader, right? You may or may not be a Christian. So you can listen to this or not. But remember what the scriptures say. Jehovah God created the man first. Perfect. And he created the earth and everything, right? And then he, you know, looked at his creations and he looked at the man, perfect Adam, and he said, it is not good for the man to be alone. Now, perfect Adam was perfect, but he said, even with that, it wasn't good for the man to be alone. He never said it wasn't good for the woman to be alone. Now, the woman was created for the man's sake. That's what the Bible says. The woman was created for the man's sake, for the betterment, for the promotion, and, excuse me, to support her husband, the man Adam, right? That's why we were created. We were taken from Adam's bone, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone, his rib, right? So one of our main purposes as a woman really is, if you get the ability to fulfill, to be a good wife, which I have. I feel like I fulfilled that one time I can say my first husband that passed, I can say that I fulfilled that 100% to the last day, to his last breath. And I can feel confident in that. Okay. Now, if I get to have extra love, or if I get to do that again or experience that again, okay, so be it. If I decide to choose to do that, right? But as a man, even if you are perfect, even if you think, if you're a man listening to me right now and you think that you are perfect and that you have no flaws, or if you think that you are close to perfect, right? It doesn't matter even if you are perfect. God still looked at the perfect Adam and said, it's not good for you to be alone. So what that is saying is that as a man, I know that a lot of men don't want to go heal. They don't want to go to counseling. They don't want to go get psychotherapy or therapy, or they don't want to go get, it's like they don't want to have to change or whatever, right? But even God looked at perfect Adam and said, it's not good for you to be alone. And if you want somebody to be with you, you want a good wife or a good woman, I would not employ any of these manipulative behaviors. Because it's not going to keep a good woman. It's not going to get a good woman. It's not going to keep a good woman. Also, if you're a woman and you employ any of these type of manipulative behaviors, or you're guilty of that, you need to stop. You need to stop. You need to pray and ask for forgiveness and start over, or whatever. Try to be different. Try to be different. Okay, because this is not behavior that God will bless. And we all fall short of his glory, and we all need to pray and ask for forgiveness. And we have all at different times, out of maybe jealousy or whatever, have made mistakes. But the minute it's brought up to you, or when you realize what you have done, that's the time that you drop to your knees and you ask for forgiveness. When you really hurt your partner, you drop to your knees and you beg for forgiveness. You ask for forgiveness for what you've done to that other person. Doesn't matter what they've done to you. Because we're responsible for ourselves. We are responsible for ourselves. When God came to Adam and said, why did you eat the fruit? And he said, well, it was the wife that you gave me. Did that work for Adam? Did that work? Did that keep Adam from dying? Did that keep Adam? Did that pointing blame or shifting the blame, or trying to give the blame to Jehovah, did that behavior work for Adam? No. Because in the end, we are responsible for ourselves. In the end, we have to answer to Jehovah God for our behavior. Okay? So if you identify that you have done some of these behaviors, or that you are actively even doing some of these behaviors right now to your partner or to your spouse, it's best that you stop, go to your knees, and humbly ask for forgiveness, and then stop the behavior. Okay? That is the best thing to do, is stop the behavior right away. Now, I'm going to go over this one more time just so that I'm very clear. I just want to read it straight through. Manipulative behavior is when someone uses harmful, that even includes harmful is physical too, biting, hitting, slapping your partner because you don't like something that they've done. Physical, first of all, physical violence, physical abuse, you need to go ahead and just separate. Like, that is someone who doesn't even deserve to have a partner, male or female. But harmful, controlling tactics, harmful would include also physical abuse, is a form of manipulation as well. Manipulative, so harmful, controlling tactics to gain personal advantage. Manipulative behaviors can include gaslighting, lying, blaming, and guilt tripping. Examples of manipulative behaviors: gaslighting, a form of psychological abuse that causes confusion and self-doubt in the victim. Love bombing, showering someone with affection and attention and gifts at the beginning of a relationship, or just to get them back. Guilt tripping, a form of emotional blackmail that preys on someone's feeling of guilt. Playing victim, avoiding responsibility for mistakes or wrongdoings by blaming others. Silent treatment, which is also a form of passive-aggressive. I forgot to say that. I can't stand passive-aggressive behavior. Ooh, I don't like passive-aggressive. I don't do passive-aggressive. I don't like it. Silent treatment, shutting down communication and connection as a form of punishment. Wrong. That is wrong. Emotional blackmail. Wrong. Using appeals to someone's feelings to convince them to do what the manipulator wants. Okay, isolation. Trying to isolate someone from their friends and family to make them more dependent on them. Triangulation. Using a third party to create division, tension between people. And not even another woman. Also, triangulation can also be like your mother. Let's say, you don't like something that someone does or whatever, and you call your mother, or she calls her mother to come in and like be on your side and be like, well, blah, 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 blah. And I think my daughter is, whatever, right? Like if I called my mom to be like, Mom, can you talk to my so-and-so or my husband or whatever? My mother would be like, why are you involving me? I'm not going to get involved. Because that's how my mother is. And that's proper behavior. That's the way it should be. Right? So, but the triangulation can actually be, the third party can be anybody who is going to help you cause this division, who's going to try to take your side. Okay? Those are all manipulative behaviors that can damage a person's psychological well-being in the relationship. Okay? And literally, if you don't believe what I'm saying, just Google it. You could just Google this and study this yourself. And if you're guilty of this, ask yourself why. And if you've had some childhood trauma or things that maybe you just have, like, at the root of it, you just either you're really selfish, or you have some devil traits, or maybe you are doing these type of behaviors because maybe this is what you saw in your family and you think that this is okay, and you didn't know that it was wrong, or maybe it's because you have a problem with being vulnerable. If you have a problem with being vulnerable and open with your emotions, that is also a sign of you need help. You need to go get some therapy, some counseling, psychological help, whatever. You need some help. You need some counseling, okay? Anyway, that was just some more information I wanted to go over. I hope it helps.